They left her in the jungle to die. Bruised. Broken. Unrecognizable. But what they didn't know was simple. She didn't die that night. She became something else. Because the woman they destroyed in the dark came back with a memory she could never forget. And a silence that would end lives without a single scream. Her name was Olivia. And this is not a survival story. This is a return story. Olivia was a 32-year-old waitress working in a small cafe in Los Angeles. She lived a quiet life, long shifts, empty evenings, and dreams she never spoke out loud. She wasn't wealthy, powerful, or connected to anything dangerous. She was just trying to survive. That's when she met Daniel. He wasn't like the others. At least, that's what it looked like in the beginning. Well-dressed, confident, polite, the kind of man who knows exactly what to say and when to say it. He would visit the cafe often, always sitting with his two business partners, Mark and Jason. They were successful in construction investments, or so they claimed. Expensive watches, luxury talks, fake smiles, everything about them looked like success. Daniel slowly entered Olivia's world. Small conversations turned into longer talks. Long talks turned into emotional dependency. He made her feel seen in a way she had never experienced before. Flowers at work. Late-night messages. Promises of a future she had always dreamed of. But behind Daniel's charm was a man already broken long before Olivia met him. A history of substance abuse, alcohol dependency, and a failed marriage that ended when his first wife walked away from his chaos. But none of that mattered to Olivia at the time, because she was falling for the version of him he carefully constructed. Within months, Daniel proposed. It felt fast, but it also felt right, or at least that's what Olivia convinced herself. The wedding was quiet, private, and rushed. Mark and Jason stood beside Daniel like loyal friends, but their eyes told a different story, one Olivia never noticed. After marriage, things slowly changed. Not suddenly. Not loudly. But quietly, like poison spreading through water. Daniel became distant, controlling, unpredictable. The warmth disappeared. The charm faded. And Olivia started feeling like a guest in her own home. Then came the invitation that changed everything. A weekend trip. To fix things, Daniel said. A short escape outside Los Angeles. A private cabin near a forested region. No phones. No distractions. Just the three of them. Olivia agreed, because she still believed in him. That was her final mistake. The location was remote, deep outside Los Angeles, surrounded by dense forest and silence so heavy it felt unnatural. At first, it seemed peaceful. A break from the city. A chance to rebuild what was breaking between them. But reality started shifting on the very first night. The trip was never about healing. It was about control. Olivia began noticing small things, conversations that stopped when she entered the room, glances exchanged between Daniel, Mark, and Jason, and an uncomfortable tension that grew stronger every hour. She tried to ignore it, convincing herself it was just her imagination. But by the second day, everything collapsed. She realized she was not there as a wife. She was there as part of something she never agreed to. What followed shattered her entire world. Time stopped making sense. Fear replaced logic. Trust turned into survival. And the people she believed were her family became something unrecognizable. By the third day, Olivia was no longer the same person. When she regained full awareness, she was alone in the forest. Injured. Weak. Barely conscious. The cabin was gone. The voices were gone. Only silence remained, a suffocating, endless silence. She dragged herself through the forest for hours, collapsing multiple times, until she finally found a small isolated wooden cabin deep in the woods. That's where she met Evelyn. Evelyn was not an ordinary old woman. She lived alone, far away from society, in a cabin surrounded by nature and isolation. She was calm, observant, and carried the presence of someone who had seen too much of the world to be surprised by anything anymore. She didn't ask questions when she saw Olivia. She didn't panic. She didn't call for help. She simply said, "Come inside." Olivia collapsed inside the cabin, broken both physically and mentally. For days, she didn't speak. She barely ate. She only stared at the ceiling, replaying everything she had lost in her mind. When she finally spoke, Evelyn listened without interruption. And when Olivia finished, there was no sympathy in Evelyn's eyes. Only understanding. Because Evelyn had her own past, one tied to military service, trauma, and survival. She knew exactly what kind of darkness Olivia had been pushed into. And she made a decision. She would not let Olivia remain a victim. What followed was not healing. It was transformation. Evelyn trained her body first: endurance, pain resistance, physical control. Then her mind: emotional detachment, focus, patience under pressure. Olivia learned how to breathe differently, move differently, think differently. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. The woman who once cried in silence slowly disappeared. And something else took her place. A controlled mind. A disciplined body. A silent determination. One evening, Evelyn asked her, "What do you want now?" Olivia replied without hesitation. "I want them to remember me." That was the moment Evelyn knew, Olivia was no longer returning to life. She was returning to finish something. Months later, a new woman arrived in Los Angeles. No emotions on her face. No fear in her eyes. No trace of the past she once carried. She looked ordinary to everyone else. But inside, she was completely different. Olivia didn't rush. She didn't act on emotion. She studied everything first: Daniel's movements, Mark and Jason's routines, their businesses, their weaknesses, their patterns. They were still living comfortably, believing the past was buried. But they were wrong. One by one, she created situations that pulled them out of their safe world: isolated meetings, private calls, false opportunities, carefully designed traps that felt natural to them. Mark was the first to realize something was wrong, but by then it was already too late. Jason followed soon after. Each disappearance looked like coincidence from the outside. No witnesses. No clear connections. No evidence linking anything together. And Daniel, he began to panic. For the first time, he felt what Olivia once felt. Powerless. The final confrontation was never loud. It was quiet. Controlled. Inevitable. Daniel stood in front of Olivia and saw something he never understood before: not anger, not hatred, but complete emotional absence. Olivia looked at him and said, "You didn't break me. You built what I became." And in that moment, everything ended. Not just a man, but a chapter of existence. When authorities tried to trace anything, there was nothing to find. Only silence remained. And Olivia vanished again,